All right, but anyway, I digress. Today our guests will further learn what I have long known, that Miami is a unique, robust, beautiful city that has much to offer to both its residents and its visitors. This venue, PortMiami, is the busiest passenger cruise port in the entire world, not just in the United States, but in the entire world, and it's one of the busiest cargo ports in the United States. I'm excited to use this hearing to further examine the integral role it plays in our city and more broadly our country, and the mayor has already touched on how important this port is to the economy of this city and South Florida in general. Over 300,000 jobs are either directly or indirectly related to this port. It's the second largest economic generator in this area. This and the airport combined for probably over 600,000 either direct or indirect jobs. First, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences to the families of the individuals who passed away or were negatively impacted by the tragic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore last week, and express my gratitude to the men and women of the United States Coast Guard and other federal, state, and local authorities who responded to the incident. While we're not aware of any malicious responsibilities for the incident, the severity of the collapse of the bridge underscores the importance of what we're discussing today. Before I was elected to Congress, I had the distinct honor to serve 25 years as a firefighter with the City of Miami, later serving as its chief. I then had the privilege of being the city manager of the City of Miami, and then finally I served as the mayor of Miami-Dade County. It was during my time as mayor of Miami-Dade that I saw the critical impact that Port Miami and maritime-borne trade has on Miami and the state of Florida. Our port here is not only a hub of commerce, it's a gateway to the world. Major disruptions at the port operations, like what we're witnessing in Baltimore, would severely harm the local economy and hinder the region's connectivity to the rest of the United States and beyond. It is for that reason I worked hard during my tenure as mayor of Miami-Dade and will continue to do so in my current capacity to ensure Port Miami and the nation's port have what they need to operate safely, effectively, and securely. In my current role as chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee's Transportation and Maritime Security Subcommittee, I am continuously concerned by the security threats facing maritime ports across the country. I'm especially worried by the security vulnerabilities that exist with port equipment that is manufactured or installed in the People's Republic of China. The ship-to-shore cranes hovering over our docks, including the ones here, while instrumental to our port operations, are a focal point of that concern. Most of the U.S. port-to-ship cranes, nearly 80%, are made by CPMC, a Chinese state-owned enterprise under the direct control of the Chinese Communist Party. This near monopoly allows for CPMC to compromise U.S.-bound cranes that could cause malfunctions or facilitate cyber espionage at U.S. ports. This situation not only presents cybersecurity threats, but also supply chain vulnerabilities that could be exploited by those who wish to inflict damage to our nation and could have lasting impacts. Unfortunately, Communist China's influence in the supply chain extends beyond state enterprises like CPMC. Third-party companies often create the internal operational components for these ship-to-shore cranes. These components include programmable logic controllers, which control many ship-to-shore crane systems, as well as crane drives and motors. In most all cases, CPMC requires, and I repeat, requires that these companies ship their components to the PRC, where they can be installed by CPMC engineers or technicians. As my subcommittee has discussed in previous hearings, the proliferation of port equipment operational technology manufactured or installed by engineers in the PRC introduces significant supply chain vulnerabilities into our maritime transportation system. As a country, we must acknowledge and assess these risks, threats, and vulnerabilities and decide how to effectively respond. In February, the Biden administration signed an executive order providing the U.S. Coast Guard with new authority to respond to potential malicious actors targeting our maritime sector, and particularly those from the PRC. While I commend the administration on this initial action, I believe we need to continue examining this critical topic and ensure that our ports are protected from security threats. To do so, I have brought together a group of members from the China Select Committee and the Committee of Homeland Security to investigate some of the vulnerabilities associated with the PRC manufactured port cranes and the consequences of having a supply chain that is overly reliant upon equipment sourced from our greatest geopolitical opponent. Additionally, I have instructed legislative solutions such as my Port Crane Security and Inspection Act to ensure that the U.S. Coast Guard and other federal agencies responsible for safeguarding maritime ports have the tools and authorities necessary to deter hostile actors from operating against our ports. I'm glad to be participating in today's hearings in which you allow us to continue to address this critical topic and deliver a strong message to our adversaries interested in meddling in our ports and in the United States in general. Thank you, and I yield back.